Colleagues here present, my colleagues from the UN system, UN Resident Coordinator's Office and the Office of the Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa region. I want to warmly welcome all of you to this very important project appraisal meeting, which is convened to deliberate on the proposed democratic governance reform project intended to be implemented here in post-conflict Tigray. So as we gather today, our collective resolve to anchor is anchored in the shared belief that sustainable peace and prosperity in Tigray necessitate a robust institutional efforts that operate as democratic governance. We were here in February, and the purpose of the meeting in February was to get your go-ahead in the conceptualization of the project. The purpose for today's meeting is now, because in February we all agreed that we need to go ahead, and the purpose for today's meeting is to now review the design of the project and to see how feasible it is and how viable are the inputs that are requested or required to implement the project. That is what project appraisal meetings are about, to assess the viability of the components of the project. And as we indicated, all of us are aware that Tigray has traversed tumultuous terrain, grappling with the aftermath of conflict, displacement, and economic upheaval. Yet, we believe amidst these challenges, there exists an opportunity to lay the foundations for lasting peace and progress through an inclusive and accountable systems of governance. So this proposed democratic governance reforms project is poised to seize upon the opportunity to establish a renewed, more viable, more inclusive system of governance. And the project is going to work in tandem with existing initiatives such as the Peace Support Project that is being implemented by the United Nations Development Program and supported by the government of Germany and the government of Japan, as well as all of us are preparing for the demobilization and reintegration initiative that is also being led by the National Rehabilitation Commission and the Interim Regional Administration of Tigray. It is imperative to underscore the interconnectedness of the many different projects being implemented in the region to achieve recovery, stability, and resilience. The Peace Support Project endeavors to revitalize local economy, while the Demobilization and Reintegration Project seeks to reintegrate former combatants into society. The Democratic Institution Reform Project, which we are here to assess, focuses on post-conflict institution building and is to complement the many other initiatives underway. While a project appraisal meeting is not a resource mobilization platform, I want to use the occasion to elucidate the compelling rationale behind investing in post-conflict institution building. Firstly, democratic governance serves as a linchpin for stability, for resilience, and for the consolidation of peace in any post-conflict setting. By empowering local institutions and fostering citizens' engagement of those institutions, we mitigate the risk of renewed conflict and we lay the foundation for sustainable peace. Secondly, a robust governance structure are indispensable for equitable and inclusive recovery and resilience in any post-conflict setting, and certainly in Tigray. By promoting transparency, accountability, and the rule of law, we create an enabling environment for economic growth, for social cohesion, and for sustainable development. Development partners who invest in post-conflict institution building are not merely funding abstract concepts. They are investing in the tangible well-being and future prospects of Tigray. Moreover, supporting democratic governance reforms aligns with broader international commitments to peace building, to conflict prevention, and to sustainable development. The international community has a vested interest in fostering resilient and democratic societies that can withstand the shocks of conflict and adversity in this region. So by financing projects such as this, development partners demonstrate their commitment to upholding these shared values and aspirations of the people affected by conflict. So in conclusion, I urge all of you, our esteemed partners and stakeholders, to keenly assess the project and the project's viability, keenly assess the inputs and the value for money of the inputs, keenly assess the organizational structure of the project to ensure that all stakeholders have a voice and all stakeholders have an investment in the outcome of this project. I look forward to an open, frank deliberation and hopefully at the end of the day, the approval of the project so that we can forge ahead for a more stable, a more resilient, a more prosperous Tigray. Thank you.
Good morning, Excellencies, Lieutenant General Zarkan, Excellencies, Bureau of Heads, heads of bureaus and UN agency representatives, and of course our representative, Mr. Sam. This project, in order to get to be in full life, it should pass through a project appraisal process. That means, as part of UNDP corporate policy, and to make sure that all stakeholders who should be on board in terms of understanding, owning, leading, and also in terms of participation, they have to be given opportunity to give their feedback, their input, which would be a final one. So this endorsement is, we would say it is a stepping stone for us to make sure that the project comes to life and ready for implementation. That's why we prepared this gathering, this stakeholders local project appraisal committee meeting. So with that understanding, we developed very brief slides so that it is possible to recapture, recall what this project is for those of you who have been here during the launching, and for those of us, who are new to the project, we need to have also kind of adequate information to make sure that the project is in line with what we think and in line with what the regional government would like to put in place. I'm not going to go through the current situation or to these challenges because everybody knows what these challenges are for Tigray. Regarding what we call the complexity of the challenges, the governance landscape, the civil service, the situation of the justice system, the situation in prisons, the situation in the police administration, the drought, and the situation of rule of law. We all know all these situations now which need to be revitalized, which need to be rechecked and assessed in order to develop a new attempt, a new guide to make sure that this situation is averted and a new situation takes place. So the current project, it is with those all backdrops that we have tried to put in place as a relevant outcome, relevant outputs, and the processes. The project, it was based on kind assessment. I would say it is a kind of real assessment, candid assessment of the situations of Tigray by an external assessor, Mr. Rubin. And it is based on that assessment that we have tried to put, the relevant outcome, relevant outputs, and processes. So that foundation, that critical foundation, was the base for us to really understand and get the consent of the regional administration in the launching process. So what we expect from this project is basically to make sure or to really see the institutions well built back and start functions. The basic functions of target public institutions, it has to be reinstated, and that is the whole outcome that we need to see in the whole, in this project, which is going to be implemented for 1 year. So if I read it, the basic functions of target public institutions restored to deliver services in an accountable, transparent, and participatory manner. This is our vision. This is our, thinking towards achieving at the end of the 1 year project. How are you going to make sure that this outcome is achieved? Well, number one, a project management unit should be established in consultation with the regional government. In fact, some guidelines, some directions have already been given, but we have to make sure that directions, those guidelines are well addressed, are well taken care, and that it is a responsibility of the unit to make sure that those directions are well addressed. Secondly, the basic functionality of the public institutions restored. That means the services, the civil service, the justice sector, democratization processes, rule of law, all these, they have to be restored in a way that they can serve the people of Tigray. That's what we are thinking. So comprehensive assessment will be conducted at the beginning, and then those assessments will be changed to a program, a big multi-year, multi-response, multi-partner plan. The 5-year big program should be gender-based, evidence-based and gender-responsive, but at the same time, we have to make sure that it is people-centered, and in order to do this, the whole of government and the whole of society's principle will be followed. So this is the outputs that we expect in terms of, as a result of the implementation of the activities of the project. The process, I think it has to follow some key principles like partnership. Strong partnership is needed to make sure that this project is, it gears towards the key outcome that is expected from it. Therefore, regional institutions, civil societies, the media, etc., they have to be engaged in this process. So it's not only local partnership that we are envisioning, but also partnership with development partners, partnership with UN agencies, partnership with various institutions that the regional administration would like to have. So this project is like a bridge between the thinking of the regional administration and resources wherever they are placed. Secondly, the process would include mapping of resources, both technical and financial, and at the same time, the implementation requires various capacities. And who should intervene in this process in building the capacity of the region? It should not be only the UN agencies, it should not be only development, but there are key institutions which we think should be involved in the process of enhancing the capacity of the region as a whole. So that is the second process. Thirdly, mobilization. This is a key for the project implementation, because mobilization of resources and engagement of civil societies and non-state actors, religious institutions, traditional leaders, these are key role. These are institutions who do have key roles, and therefore the mobilization of support from various angles, various sectors, that would be one of the key processes that we envision in materializing this process. The final one is transparency and accountability. Without having this key principle in the process of implementation, it might be difficult for us to really make sure that we will achieve our targets. So strong monitoring and evaluation system should be embedded in the whole process of the process. So, who are the key stakeholders? As you can imagine, the regional administration is a key stakeholder. The resident coordinator's office, in terms of organizing the resources from different UN agencies, UNDP, the UN Special Envoy, development partners, civil society organizations, and the media, and also political parties. These are the key stakeholders of this project that we proposed in the project document. As I said, the duration is only for 1 year, from March 2024 to March 2025. I think this was explained during the time of the launching, and I think this is already accepted. The future partners of this project, as the key stakeholders are at higher level, but when we come to the lower level of engagement, we expect the regional bureau and the regional government is one key future partner. The Bureau of Justice, the Civil Service Commission, Supreme Court, Police Commission, Prison Administration, civil society organizations, not all, but selected civil society organizations, and the media would be the partners of this project. We expect that we will be able to mobilize $5 million for this huge but time-specific project. And the implementation modality will be the national implementation modality, where UNDP will be able to advance resources and seek report at the end. And there will be also a possibility of direct implementation modality, that is the regional government or the partners would give delegation to UNDP so that UNDP can facilitate, for example, procurement of vehicles, ICT materials, etc., etc. So two modalities will be utilized in the implementation of this project: a national implementation modality and direct implementation modality. So this is the whole, a picture that can tell us about what this project is all. What it intends to apply in the process of implementation. The key activities is the project office staffing, That's one very important, which we need as soon as possible. Capacity building and training, these are another pillar of the activities. And certainly the comprehensive assessment that I mentioned at the beginning. And also, we need to have joint platforms, which is very important in order to seek advices, guidance, and also suggestions from partners, from non-state actors, from civil societies, and all key stakeholders and the regional government should be invited in this platform to reflect views. The project pillars, as per the guidance of the regional administration, the Justice Bureau, justice and the rule of law, governance and democratization, and the civil service reform are the key pillars of this project. It means all our efforts would be towards the improvement of the status of the current status of these institutions. The key principles of this project, well, it works also for other projects, but we tried to make as much as possible to make the key principles to be relevant to this project. Original ownership is very important. That's why we repeatedly say the participation, the ownership, the leadership of the regional government is important in the process of implementation, starting from the designing process. Do no harm. This is related to conflict in terms of designing, in terms of implementation and reporting. We would like to be careful as much as possible not to trigger any kind of conflict between partners, between the key institutions in the region, as well as the kind of policies, interventions which are already made available by the federal government and the region. So this key principle would be respected. Leave no one behind. We said there are key institutions who should be involved in this process, who should be involved in the implementation, and we tried to be careful in selecting the stakeholders, and if there is any that should be included, we are happy to add. So leave no one behind is a key principle in UNDP and also in UN agencies. So we seek advice from participants in terms of this area. Independence, neutrality, and inclusivity is another important principle that we need to adhere to. The independence of the region, the independence of the project implementation, the neutrality of views, the neutrality of ideas, the neutrality of guidance, that must be also respected. Inclusivity, it goes with the third principle, that is leave no one behind. We need to have, we need to respect the participation of all sectors, all individuals, the marginalized groups, women networks, the youth groups, political parties, etc. So inclusivity would be very important. Digitization and innovation was one of the advices that was given by the participants in the launching of the project. So we need to make sure that this cross-cutting approach would be involved in the implementation of the process. Gender sensitivity, well, we know that women should not be excluded, men as well, girls, young boys, they have to be well considered in terms of designing, in terms of implementation, so that this sensitivity would be well addressed. Synergy with similar initiatives is helpful in terms of bringing impact, better impacts. So this project should not be a standalone project. It should not be a kind of island. It has to collaborate. There should be a kind of synergy and interworking relationship with similar initiatives like what the resident representative was mentioning, the DDR, the peace support, and other projects that are initiated by the regional government as well as by other non-government institutions. The next is the linkage with national efforts, policies, and strategies. We know the region has its own policies, different policies, and we have to make sure that this policy, this project responds or well aligned with those frameworks and the regional policies and strategies. Another important key principle is public outreach, which is important, and transparency in terms of communication, in terms of giving as much information as possible to the people of Tigray, and also to regional administration and bureau heads, etc., etc. So we hope that this kind of, the public outreach will be well maintained by the regional administration and key stakeholders. The project management arrangement is very simple. There will be a project board, consisting of the leadership of key implementing partners, like the head of the Bureau of Justice, the head of the Bureau of Civil Service Commission, also the regional administration. In terms of executive arrangement, the UN, that's the Resident Coordinator's Office, plus the regional administration of Tigray will be the executive, following the program management board. And then there are development partners. These have to be also given the opportunity to really engage themselves in the project implementation as well as in the processes. So there are 3 different teams. The project assurance team, that would be the democratic governance and peace building unit in UNDP. There is also a program technical committee which is already established, including Safa, myself, Afor, Hannah, and also some project officers, project members in our office here. So the project management unit is a separate unit, but we should work with all the boxes that are mentioned here. That the program management unit is the unit that functions and that would be established and function for the implementation of the project. The project management board, it is the highest body in terms of decision making, in terms of giving policy guidance, decisions related to budget, related to annual work plans, and also whenever there are challenges, and when the project seeks policy guidance or in terms of managing risks, the body that gives decisions would be the project management board. The role of the project technical committee is to report to the project board, but it is a project that oversee the quality of quality of project implementation, and also technical backstopping, and all operational matters would be handled by the project technical committee. UNDP has its own role. It is the technical arm of this project, as given the guidance from the resident coordinator's office and also by the regional administration. So UNDP will coordinate all activities and oversees the implementation of activities. Reports, prepare reports, facilitates monitoring and evaluation and reporting, and that would be the important aspect for the project management board. To get information from UNDP. The project management unit, which is the central body of this project, it should serve as secretariat for the project steering committee, as well as for the project board, as well as for the technical committee. So all day-to-day activities would be managed by the project management unit. Now there are opportunities and risks which we need to understand right from the outset. We need to make sure that the commitment of the regional administration is there, supportive of environment, openness, and space for discussion, space for dialogue for all partners should be provided. And one opportunity which is very important is the previous experiences. the last 20, 40 years, 30, 40 years, we have passed through different experiences, and we need to compile them and see what relevance they have. The available capacity is also an opportunity. It will not start from the scratch. We have something on the ground, and we need to exploit those capacities. So commitment of development partners and the UN, I think that's already seen, and we'd like to see the continuation of all these commitments. The risks, the instability, the tensions, still we feel that there are some instabilities and tensions, and we need to make sure that these are mitigated at the right time. The global situation, we have very little control, but we are sure that it might have some impact on our project, like the Ukraine situation, the Gaza war, and the rising situation in the Horn of Africa. Even the situation between Yemen and what's going on in the Red Sea, that will also affect the project implementation. Inflation and drought are local. In some way we may have control, in some way we may not have control over these situations, but still mitigation strategies are put in place, we believe, and the regional administration will continue to make sure that the effect of inflation and drought will be at a lower level, lower risk towards the implementation of this project. Another risk which might affect this project is the absorptive capacities of implementing partners. The Commission, the Civil Service Commission, the Bureau of Justice, the regional administration itself, they have to have the highest capacity possible for the implementation, of resources during the implementation of this project. If it is lower, that means we need to extend the project period, and which will also bring another problem. The resource situation, we know that it is dwindling, it is becoming competitive, so we need to work together. There should be a concerted effort towards mobilizing as much resources as possible for the project. And finally, this is a timeline. I'm not going to go through all this, but the two things. The first one is already done, that is the February 14, the project launching situation. Today we are on the second event, that is the LPAC meeting. Between now and towards the end of March 2025, we have lots of things to accomplish. As part of this, we have next steps that my colleague Afur will present, but I would like to underscore that this is, once this review is completed, it means that we'll seek endorsement, and then we'll make the project document ready for signature and implementation. So we have to make sure that the feedback is well incorporated on time, and within this week we have to be sure that the project is signed and ready for implementation. Thank you very much.
At the end of the project, it says we will see target public institutions service delivery will be restored, at least in some basic functions. So I want to be more clear about what are the basic functions we have in mind, because the public institutions will have so many functions. Obviously, it could be law and order functions, justice provision functions, or maybe other basic services. So for the purpose of this project, what basic functions are we envisioning? Secondly, what public institutions are we targeting, particularly by name? Because if we know this, then by the end of the project, we will be able to judge whether the public institutions the target public institutions have restored their functions well or not. So these are two questions, and we want the service to be stored in a transparent, in an accountable, in a participatory manner. So what are our indicators? At the end of the project, how do we measure accountability? How do we measure participation? How do we measure transparency? Do we have preset, predetermined indicators and indexes, or on the process we will develop it probably with society? So I want to be clear so that by the end of the project we will be able to see whether what we are saying now is going to be realized later on. My second question is about the alignment between the activities listed and the target outcome. The activities are more of capacity building in the form of events, in the form of trainings. So I don't really see the theory of changes. Yes. By doing these activities, then how is it possible that basic functions of key targeted public institutions are going to be restored? So can anyone of you elaborate for me the logical link between the outcome and the activities listed in the area? The other question I have is about the risks. The risks, as you see, are very broad and very huge risks to me. So I would like to see the mitigation strategy for the risks. First of all, which of these risks are under the project's sphere of control? What can the project do on which of these risks by its own? Secondly, on which of these risks are risks that the project can have sphere of influence? If it cannot control, at least it can influence. The reason why I'm raising this is because at the end of the project, if the project fails, we should not bring this as excuses. The project fails because of this risk, because of this risk that is not going to be helpful to the society. So are there mitigation strategies put for some of the risks at least? That's one question. The other question I have is about the scope of the focus of the project. Is it going to focus on the public institutions, on the target basic functions of institutions within the control or the administration of the interim administration of Tigray, or would it have any spillover effect on the territories and communities that are now under occupation? This is very serious because it will help us to do some other efforts on the communities that are now will be outside the scope of the focus of this project. Otherwise, it will create some division among communities. Those who would be accessed by this project will have services restored and basic functions restored, but those outside the scope of this project will be left behind. And one of the principles is not to leave anybody behind, and we have territories and communities which are already being left on the process.
Is that I'm aware of, we have three major reform programs: governance system reform, justice system reform, JSRP, and then civil service reform. And I'm also aware of the fact that the three programs require separate approach, and yet they have to be complementary to each other. So what is the strategy of synchronizing the three programs in a way that outcomes from one will be an addition to the other? So this is the first question. The second is on the implementation strategy. The presenter, Mr. Fasaha, said there are two approaches. One is NIM, National Implementation Program. The second is direct implementation. I'm not sure what the national implementation mean. Does that mean the federal government shall have, or federal organs shall have, a direct influence or management role in the process? And if so, because the presenter said direct implementation has got something to do with the role of the regional government, do you have a mechanism of insulating the influence of the national implementation strategy on the regional, the direct implementation strategy? Because we have to be very realistic. There will be political influence. So do you have any mechanism of insulating it from negative influences? The other question I have is on the principles. mostly we just write principles because they are common everywhere, independence, neutrality, this and that. But as a post-war society, I think we need ethical, epistemological, and practical commitment to implement and to see the realization of this project. That means we will have additional subjective alignment and commitment to the people or to the project at hand. So what do we mean by independence and neutrality? What are we going to be independent and neutral from? I think we need to have belongingness, passion to see this thing happen. Because the reform is meant to help the victim, because the program says it has to be people-centered, and the people are victims. So when you are working with a victim-centered approach, you have a commitment. So what do you mean by independence and neutrality? Another issue I have is, in the slide, and the presenter has said, linkage with the national efforts, policies, and strategies. I'm not aware of if there is any governance, justice system reform, or civil service reform at national level. What are those policies, efforts, and strategies underway? What are we referring to? And then if there is any, for argument's sake, if there is any, how are we going to synchronize them? Because many of the policies which were designed during the war period were, for one, not constitutionally accepted, and they were targeting Tigray. So how are we going to synchronize them? This is another issue. Then this brings also issue of alignment. Okay, I have my last question. The last question is identification of risk and opportunity. I don't see the federal government either as opportunity or as risk. What do we mean? Are we escaping it or what? And the last question Mr. Asafa will tolerate me is that lack of absorption capability is mentioned as a risk factor. By the way, the very problem we want to address, how could it be a risk factor? Isn't the project designed to create a capability so that the absorption capacity of the institutions and organs to be improved? So what do you mean?
My name is Waldai Abraham from Alliance of Civil Society Organizations of Tigray, AXOT. I'm very thankful for those who have initiated this kind of project, because just Tigray needs this kind of intervention for the future, for the better future of Tigray and its people. And I have only one question. That's about the output of the project. I think I have seen one output that says restoring of the functionality of services. So do you think that this project within a given time period of 1 year can just ensure restoring of functionality of services? This is a question I just want to raise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is Salamawit Gday from Rise and Shine Women Empowerment Center in local CSO. And I'm very happy to be part of this project. And I only have a short take-home message, not only to the project, but to everybody here in the room, to implement the key principles, especially the no one behind and the gender-sensitive issues. Because we always say, let's leave no one behind, but in practice, we leave more than 50% of women. So let's leave no one behind and include women and girls in every aspect of our lives. And to the project specifically, please let's be practical in including women and those CSOs working for women during the design and implementation of this project. Thank you very much.
First, I want to thank UNDP and its staff for the initiative. But I have some concerns. I mean, for example, as I can say, or as we can see from the title, it's saying that democratic governance reform. So from this, my question is this project plan, intending to just reform the existing system, or is it intending to bring a fundamental change in the political system in Tigray? My second question is, I think this is not the first project by UNDP in post-conflict societies. I think it has a rich experience in implementing similar projects in other parts of the world, I think. So what can the project leaders tell us about the experiences, from their experience in terms of the success rate of this project and the challenges it might going to face? The other is, I think the political culture in Tigray is quite different from other parts of the world. And I think the incumbent has a very strong grip on every aspect of our people's lives. So while we are planning to implement these projects, how we are going to overcome some of the political challenges, especially from the incumbent, which is still resisting any change to happen in Tigray. So thank you.
I have one comment and a couple of questions. First and foremost, I just want to thank UNDP and the Tigray Regional Administration for engaging us in this process. And having said this, as I tried to say it last time, we believe that this project is very relevant and our circumstances, and I think we are paying enough attention towards its realization. And one of the things that I just want to comment on is the level or the space that this project gives to citizen engagement. I personally feel that the center of gravity of this project should be citizen engagement for so many reasons, and because I think that has been one of the missing things in our history, and this should be some of the things that we really need to consider throughout the designing and implementation of this project. And I think citizens should be at the center of this project, and obviously we need to have kind of citizen engagement platforms. We need to think of setting up citizen engagement platforms. Otherwise, don't think this project will bring about significant change or the changes that we want to come. So citizen engagement platform should be at the center of all activities of this project. For your information, we have social accountability project, which is being implemented in about 20 waredas in Tigray. And through that project, we set up a kind of citizen engagement platforms that discuss on restoration of services, because of course the emphasis of social accountability is largely on what you call service standards enhancement. Unfortunately, we don't have services. We didn't yet resume services, and its focus is mainly on how to restore what you call the services, how to resume services. So in resuming the services, citizens are voicing and prioritizing their priorities, and then we set up a kind of platform to bring both the service providers and the service recipients or the citizens together to discuss and identify their priorities. So these kinds of platforms are very important, and we should pay maximum attention to these kinds of platforms towards either establishing or strengthening these kinds of platforms. That's my first comment. Secondly, we are happy with the engagement so far, but I couldn't see enough in details, the details about the role and participation of civil society organizations in this project as well. So it should be sharpened, and it should go beyond. We should participate, right from the beginning, from the design to its implementation. So that has to be clearly outlined, and I couldn't see that in the presentation. Thirdly, one of the risks identified are, I think I tried to go to the risks, but I couldn't see the kind of something that has to do with the Pretoria peace deal, Pretoria implementation. In my opinion, the biggest risk for the implementation of this project is the lack of political will or political commitment, particularly from the federal government in respect to the implementation, the full and comprehensive implementation of the Pretoria peace deal. In my opinion, the fact that the federal government has clear political stance that it's not going to return the so-called contested territories to their legitimate owner, in particular, is one of the immediate, risk factors that should be outlined and, clearly indicated. And I think this has to be considered in the project design and in its implementation as well. Okay, I think our issue. Thank you.
Implemented all over Tigray, and is this project by now visible to be implemented in Western Tigray? How do you include this project? How do you include Western Tigray in this project? Second, in your presentation, I've heard the highest body of the organization is, or this project is, the board. From where is the composition of this board? From where? How is the composition, and how will be these $5 million be regulated and monitored? Third, the institutions. What institutions are helpful for you here in Tigray? And are you going to sign agreements with every institution, or is centered in your institution only? Finally, how do the political parties, I'm from Aksumite Congress, for example, Aksumite Congress political organization, how do the political organizations participate or work with you? Thanks.
Let me run quickly through some of the questions and the responses. The first question was, what are we considering as basic functions? And I think, as it's been said, Robin spent a lot of time here speaking to each one of you. And in the launch of the project, I think it was the president of the Supreme Court and said, why do you want to do an assessment? My furniture has been destroyed. I have no basic equipment to start working as a Supreme Court judge. I don't have access, and the courts are yet not open. That is what we are calling basic function. The peace support project we are currently implementing here has helped us to restore basic beds, equipment, generators in hospitals, in health centers, in clinics. That's the idea what is required for these three institutions to start their work again. Why did they lose in the conflict? That is what we are referring to as basic function. You are not going to do the reform in 1 year, but what is required to start providing services again. And so our indicators, if you look at the detailed project, there are indicators in there that spell out how we are going to measure success on basic function. But in a very basic definition is really getting people started again. And that is what that means. In terms of the public institutions, we've already outlined them: the Civil Service Reform Commission, the judiciary, primarily the office of the president of the Supreme Court and the court system, and the corrections. All of the prison services are the areas that we are focusing on. And then on the democratization side, the media, if there is a media association here, and civil society platform that the colleague has just spoken about, the coalition of civil society, including women's civil society groups. Those are the institutions that the project is targeting. In terms of detailed indicators, again, I encourage you to read the project. Every output has set of indicators that have been agreed in the project. And the risks and mitigation are outlined in there. I agree with the colleague who said that we missed out in the risk of the non-implementation of the COHA. I think it's an important risk. So we are, I think the project designers will definitely need to integrate and add that risk in there. But all of the risks that have been mentioned are in there in terms of the mitigation strategies. On scope, now that is a challenge because that is why we are focused on the Civil Service Reform Commission, and then they will now need to define the scope of civil service coverage. The scope, the focus of the project in the first year is to look at the Supreme Court and the court system. It is the responsibility of the Supreme Court or the court system to define the scope they want to cover in the 1 year. And similarly with the corrections and with civil society. So there are two definitions of scope. The direct scope of the project are those institutions being defined. Then those institutions will define the scope they want to cover in service delivery from the project. And that is the next level in the implementation phase that will be defined. Another very important question that was raised was in terms of the NIM and DIM modality, the national implementation and direct implementation. UNDP uses those words basically vis-a-vis UNDP. Is this project directly implemented by UNDP? That would be called direct implementation. Is it implemented outside of UNDP by government themselves? That is what is called NIM. So NIM does not mean it will be implemented by the federal government. NIM means that it is not implemented by UNDP, it is implemented by the regional government. Anything we are not implementing, but we are passing the money through a government entity is called NIM. And what we are implementing directly is called DIM. And as Fisa had said, there may be activities in the project, say procurement of project vehicles, procurement of equipment, that UNDP, by the mandate of the government, will be required to procure directly and bring. Like next week, we are bringing 12 vehicles for the regional government, and they gave us the instruction, you buy these vehicles on our behalf. That will be called DIM. That's the distinction between DIM and NIM. Anything UNDP spends money on directly is called DIM. Anything we give the money through the government and the government hand us in and only give us a report is called NIM. It doesn't have to deal with federal government or non-federal government. That's not what the definition is. In principle, now, it's always complicated whether you want to have a principle of neutrality. In this project, it's a very politically sensitive project. And that's why we emphasize in there the definition of neutrality or non-neutrality means there is no vested interest. There's no personal interest that UNDP or the implementers do have. The only interest is reforming institutions. So if there's an agenda embedded in there secretly to say I'm reforming the institution so that I can win an election, for example, that would be vested interest. And so the definition of neutrality in this case is merely looking at a substantive institutional reform with no individual political interest of the implementers. That is what that means. But if that is not understood or is being misconstrued, is open to adjusting that, maybe call it impartiality or call it something else. But that was what the definition of that really means. Alignment of this regional intervention with national policy. What we mean, for example, when I came 3 weeks ago, I had a meeting with the federal judiciary. And the federal judiciary is trying to say, it put in place a reform agenda to look at areas of strengthening justice institutions, digitalization of justice institutions, making sure people can even go to court without going to a court building. They can go to court just using their phone. And that idea just like you also said you need digitalization, this project means how do you align what the federal government's idea of justice reform looks like with the regional justice reform. It's not usurping your agenda, but aligning those agendas. There's one country, one state. And that is the idea, that's what we mean. It's not usurping national policy, but aligning national policy with your agenda, the digitalization agenda, the participation agenda that you have. We seem to see that also with the Supreme Court in Addis, also with the police and the correction system that we are working with. And that is what this really means. Now, absorptive capacity, the idea there is, yes, you may train the Civil Service Commission, we may train the corrections and then give them the money, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee that because they have training that they will deliver the resources in time. But the mitigation strategy is the training, the capacity development, but you need to recognize also that there is a risk that implementation could be delayed. This is a one-year project, and you want to make sure you identify the risk, and that's why we are providing the necessary training, hopefully, for the 3 institutions, the 4 institutions that will be implementing the project. But it doesn't necessarily mean your mitigating strategy is 100% guaranteed that somebody will take the resources and deliver it in time. That's our hope. A risk doesn't necessarily mean that it will not happen. I hope that that clarifies that. An important question that was also asked was, is this project about reforms or is this project about transformation, fundamental, changing the institution? In 1 year, you can't do transformation. That's what we're saying. In this 1 year, we will support the institution to get started. We will conduct a comprehensive assessment. Based on the comprehensive assessment, a 5-year program will be put in place. Now, that 5-year program, based on the design of what is found in this year, could become a transformation agenda or a reform agenda. But that decision is at the end. When we have done the design, the assessment, we can say, yes, based on this assessment, you need a fundamental shift in institutions or the institutional landscape in Tigray. But that will be a decision you will make in this same forum when that time comes. But this first phase is a reform phase. It's not a transformation phase. I agree with the colleague from civil society. This project is about citizens' engagement. That's the participatory component. That citizens are brought close to their institutions. That citizens demand how the institutions perform. And the citizens' engagement platform that he spoke about is one example of activities this project intends to support. So giving more resources to the citizen engagement platform so that they engage the institution will be one important component of this project. Whether it's the women's group, whether it's a civil society platform, that is one indicator that we'll be looking at. The frequency of civil society platform meeting, the frequency of civil society platform influencing institutional behavior in Tigray are key indicators in the project. Project board composition, it was proposed there. The suggestion that all of the project implementing partners are members of the project board, plus the higher level project stakeholders, the donors, UNDP, the RC office, the UN special envoy, the regional government, plus all the implementing partners are members of the project board. Now, it is your decision to see whether that is enough, that is too much. That's why this meeting is all about. Lastly, political party involvement. Again, the democratization component has 3 stakeholders: civil society, the media, and the political party. These are the three beneficiaries from the democratization side. Then from the governance side, as Dr. Asifa said, is the civil service reform, is the corrections, is the court, the justice system. Thank you.
I want this to be strongly recorded because one of my colleagues here from Baitona said, he presented it as if it was the initiative of the UNDP. The UNDP accepted our initiative and tried to support it. What has to be clear is this program was initiated in the interim administration with full participation of President Getachew Reda, myself, and Ato Asafa. We presented our concept note to the central government in Addis Ababa. They went through that note. That was sent to the UN process, and luckily the UNDP and the UN institutions accepted to support this program. So the UN bodies are coming here to support our initiative, to support the initiative that we have indicated as a need in Tigray. Not only I'm talking about this as a matter of historical record, but as a matter of future trajectory as well. Even in the future, UNDP will be with us to support in all aspects: knowledge, manpower, financial resources, material resources, and controlling the project itself. But at the center of the shaping of the program and putting the contents in place will be primarily the task of the interim administration in Tigray. I am touching upon some of the questions that have been raised with regard to whether the central government will cooperate in this effort so far, and I don't see any reason why, even in the future. This is being done with the knowledge and support of the federal government. As I said, we sent our demand, our concept note. The central government went through it and said, go ahead. That's what is happening. أنشلنا بتقريني عن إيش كزاربي دلي حد تلعلو حتى اللو ناي بعلتنا ونزمسلو ناتاتهم ونمرأي إذا برنامج زي نايتهم أب تقرأي بوليتيكاوي لاندسكيب نمغيار زغبرو برنامجات حادي كالوت برنامجات اللو نتوم مع جزاو منجست تقرأي مرحتي جزاو منجست تقرأي نتا محاهرنا نقبرهم نولهم برنامجات UNDP كدقفهم يو إذا برنامج زي كم تغيير يكرر يزلو أتو ناي تقرأي ناي political landscape ناي مغيار برنامج كن بزحات components سلو نابنت تمالي ناي تقرأي كابينة advisory council بزبل حادث انكر زبالة عقم زلو ناي تقرأي ناي political process ملك عم متحز عبي ترازلو وسنة وسينولو أتي كونسل كابتوم زلو وسلطانات باجت ملو بملو كقواصا زاريو باجت مقصار مالت نايتو كابينة بلانون كقواصا زاريو مالتيو أفتازمون كريو audit كقبر كلون نافتو كونسل تو audit report كمسي سلزي كمزيز مثلا موسى سلطان زلو كونسل يسوم زلو inclusive كوني قال لنا تو inclusive ناي مخانو خند تندليو زي كنا كوني غيري بزغنا كن كابتوس نبرنايو كابتو نقدمي تنريو نعرف إذا حشة inclusivity زلو كونسل كوني inclusive بمخانو ما بزحات عبيت حسابات سلزل مهارات زلو فلاتات زلو انترست زلو جروبات زلو وسلزل علم لك احنا حدا عبي بوليتيكاون محوري ايكونومياون مييطات زغبرلو كونسل بحري كحزي كابتوم زحزوم عبي سلطانات حدا ناي تግራይ بهج ዝተጣየሹ ናይ ልምዓት ትካላት ናብቲ ካውንስል ተጻውዓት ኮኒኦም ይብል እዩ ጸዲቁ ዘሎ ዶክመንት ናይ ትግራይ ዳኝነት ሚዲያ ኣብ ትሕቲ ናይዙ ካውንስል ዚ ቁፅር ኮኒኦም ተባሂሉ ተወሲኑ ዘሎ ኣብቶም ናይ ታሕተወት ማሕበራት ኣሰራርሓ ዓብይ ስልጣን ከም ዘሎ ተገይሩ ተቐሚጡ ዘሎ ናይ ፕሪቶሪያ ስምምዕነት ኣብ ተግባር ንምውዓል ዓብይ ቆላሕቲ ሃይቡ ከም ዋና ስርሑ ገይሩ ክሰርሕ ከም ዘሎ ተቐሚጡ ዘሎ ከምኡ ዝመሰሉ ብዙሓት ኣለዉ እቲ ዶክመንት ፋይናል ኮይኑ ይወፅእ ስለ ዘሎ ክወፅእ ከሎ ፓብሊክ ኮኒ ክትሪእዎ ሓደ ዓብይ ሪፎርም እዩ ሓደ ዓብይ ሪፎርም እዩ ሪፎርም ብዝህዝብ ንሪኦ ዘለና ጥራሕ ዘይኮነ ምዃኑ ንምርኣየ ዘልዕል ዘሎ ኣብ ቀረባ ግዜ ኣብዚ ትማሊ ምቕሪ ትማሊ ናይ ትግራይ ታሕተዋይ ማሕበር ብገፊሕ ናይ ህዝቢ ተሳትፎ ከመይ ጌርና ኢና ክነመዓራርዮ ዘለና ዝብል ናይ ሓፂር ግዜ ፅንዓት ኣካይድና ኣብ ሓፂር ግዜ ናብ ውሳነ ዘብፅሕን ናብ ኢምፕሊመንቴሽን ዘብፅሕን ታስክ ፎርስ ቆይሙ ኣሎ ስራሕ ክጅምር እዩ ታሕተዋይ ማሕበር እውን ከምኡ ገይሩ ከካይዶ እዩ ምስ ናይ ማእኸላይ መንግስቲ ብምስምማዕ ናይ ኢትዮጵያ ማኔጅመንት ኢንስቲትዩት መፅኦም ናይ ትግራይ ግዚያዊ መንግስቲ ካቢኔኡ ከመይ ይኹን ዝብል ፅንዓት ተወዲኡ ኣሎ ናብ ኢምፕሊመንቴሽን ጥራሕ ይተርፎ ዘሎ ከምዚኦም ዝመሰሉ ፕሮግራማት ኣሎ እዚ ሪፎርም እዚ ንዞም ፕሮግራማት እዚኣቶም ጎኒ ንጎኒ ብዘድልዮ ማቴርያልን ናይ ሰብ ሓይልን ገንዘብን ዝሕግዝ እዩ ዝኸውን ኢን ኣይሶሌሽን ክረአይ ዘለዎ ነገር ኣይኮነን ኣብዚኣቶም ውሽጢ ኣትዩ ዝረአይ እዩ ዝኸውን ከምኡ እናበልኩ እቶም ተጀሚሮም ዘለዉ ቅድም ኢሎም ተጀሚሮም ግዜ እናወሰዱ ገለገሊኦም ሪሶርስ ክንረክበሎም ገለገሊኦም መልክዕ ክነትሒዞም ተጀሚሮም ዝነበሩ ስራሕቲ እዚ ናብ ስራሕ ይኣትወሉ እዚ ናይ ሪፎርም ኣጀንዳ ብዩኤን ዝድገፍ ዘሎ ናይ ሪፎርም ኣጀንዳ ሳብስታንሱ ናይ ትግራይ ግዚያዊ መንግስቲ ዘፍልቆ ናይ ትግራይ ግዚያዊ መንግስቲ ዝደልዮ ንሱ ናብ መጨረሻ ንኸበፅሕ ናይ ምግባር ኣካይዳ እዩ ዘሎ እዚ ክንገብር ከለና እቶም ተቐመጡ ከም ፕሪንሲፕል ተባሂሎም ተቐሚጦም ዘለዎ ይኹን እቶም ኦብጀክቲቭስ ስለ ንሰማምዐሎም እዮም ወፂኦም ዘለዉ እምተዓንቶ ሰፋ ዝገልጾ ዝነበረ እቲ ይካየድ ምስ ተባሃለ ምስቶም ናይ ዩኤን ኣካላት እናተዘራረብና እቲ ዶኪመንት በዚ መንገዲ እዩ ደቨሎፕ ገይሩ ዘሎ ኣካውንታቢሊቲ ትራንስፓረንሲ ፓርቲሲፔሽን ከምዚኦም ዝብሉ ጉዳያት ብምልኦም ክኾነ ኣለዎም ኢልና ስለ ዝኣመናሉ እዮም ወፂኦም ዘለዉ ብዛዕባ እቲ ፕሮሰስ እዚ ናብ ኢምፕሊመንቴሽን ክንኣቱ ኣብ ጫፍ ኢና ዘለና እዚ እሱ ስለ ዝኾነ እውን እዩ ናትኩም ናብ ሚኢት ቀሪቡ ዘሎ ከምቲ ሚስተር ሳም ዝገለጾ ብጣዕሚ ፅቡቃት ሓሳባት እዮም ተላዒሎም ፅቡቃት ሓሳባት ዘይረአናዮም ተነይሮም እውን ናብቱ ቅድሚ ምፍራም ናቲ ዶኪመንት ከኣቱ ዘለዎም ሓሳባት እዮም ተላዒሎም ዘለዉ እቲ ፕሮግራም ክልተ ፌዝ ኣሎ ሓደ ፌዝ ዝናይ ሕዚ ዘሎ ፌዝ መብዛሕትኡ እቲ ፌዝ ዕብይ ዝበለ ለውጢ ንምግባር ኣብ ምንታይ ኢና ዘለና ኢልካ ዝርዝር ጥንዓት ናይ ምክያድ ስራሕ እዩ ኣብዚ ዝርዝር ጥንዓት ክነካይድ ከለና ኣናእሽተይ ስራሕቲ ኣይስርሑን ማለት ኣይኮነን ካፓሲቲ ንምዕባይ ዝግበሩ ስራሕቲ ኣይስርሑን ማለት ኣይኮነን ክስርሑ እዮም እቲ ቤዚክ ነቸሩ ግን ንዝቐፃላይ ዕብይ ዝበለ ለውጢ ንምምፃእ ዘኽእል ፋንዳሜንታል ዝኾነ ፅንዓትን ክግበር ዘለዎ ስራሕን ናይ ምውፃእ ጉዳይ እዩ እዚ ድማ ምስ ኩልኩም ፓርቲስፔት እናገበርኩምሉ ዝግበር እዩ ዝኸውን እዚ ፕሮግራም እዚ ሰለስተ ዓበይቲ መስርሓት ኣለዎ እቲ ሓደ ኣብ ክልተ እውን ክኽፈል ይኽእል እዩ ከምቲ ሚስተር ሳም ዝበሎ ግን እቲ ክልተ ብሰለስተ ክኽፈል ይኽእል እዩ ምክንያቱ እቲ ሓደ እዚ ናይ ክሪሚናል ጃስቲስ ሲስተም ዝበሃል ፍትሒ ፍርዲ ቤት ቤት ማእሰርቲ ፖሊስ ዘጠቃለለ ኣብዚ እንታይ ኢና ሪፎርም ንገብር ዝብል ፅንዓት ዘካይድ ሓደ ዓብይ ኣካል ክህሉ እዩ ምክንያቱ ናይ ሰብ መሰል ኣብ ፀገም ዝወድቀሉ ዓብይ ሴክተር ስለ ዝኾነ እቲ ካልኣይ ክፋል ናይ መንግስቲ ቱ ሲቪል ሰርቪስን ምምሕዳርን ዝምልከት ሪፎርም ንምግባር ዝግበር ሓደ ዓብይ ስራሕ እዩ ዝኸውን ቱ ሲቪል ሰርቪስ ብቕዓት ዘለዎ ፋንክሽን ገይሩ ሰርቪስ ደሊቨር ዝገብር ክኸውን ናይ ምግባር እቲ ምምሕዳር ካብቶም ኩሎም ነልዕሎም ጉዳያት ዝሓሸ ፅሬት ዘለዎ ምዃኑ ንምርግጋፅ ዘኽእል ነገር ናይ ምስራሕ እዩ ዝኸውን ኣብዚ
أتي دحار كجلسة وتصل ساي عبي خفال كم منجستي وزع زلوا محاورات ناي ዲሞክራታይዘሽን اللي زجلس عنده مستر سام نديمقراطايزيشن كابنا حدا منجستي عندما نلعلي خيد زخلو عقمتات أمن داق زتكوري أبزي أتوم ما ثلاث عبيتي كفالات يو ايدنتيفاي غيرو حدا ناي بوليتيكا بارتيات كالاي سيفل سوسايتي سالساي ميديا يتكيرو زي أتوم بدمر أتوم منجست زجبر لوتن وتكام منجست وزع زجبر لوتن تدميرهم نتنا ዲሞክራታይዘሽን ፕሮሰስ ንቅድሚት ክደፍዎ እዮም እዩ ሓሳብ እታንቶ በመንግስት ዝግበር ዘለውን ምዚኣቶም አላይ እንደኮይኑ ዝኸይድ እዩ ስለዚ ተነጽሉ ንበይኑ ጥራሕ ዝኸይድ ነገር ኣይኮነን ምባል እዩ እዞም ፕሮግራም እዚኣቶም ሁሉም ድማ ብድምር ክረአዩ ከለው ጊዜያዊ መንግስት ትግራይ ዲዛይን ገብሮ ከሎት ሓሳብ تنا مجرشة تاشمو نهزبي زتعبر نهزبي صبغ سيرفيس هب منجستي كهلونا بمعلام يزقبر كابتو زنور ناي بوليتيكا أكايدا ناي بوليتيكا بارتات كهلو عين ككم عقمن كورا درائن ككم عقمن مسجل نفاس سلطان كحزائن وزي كم زلو خيلو تمنجستي دما نبور ناي منجستي قومت زغونو نقرات حيزو كالوت ناي بوليتيكا بارتيتات بوددر زعاتو خمس كون كوينو بمسألة نهزب زقلقل قوامنات زلو نخل حزب تግራይ زحقف منجستي قس بقس كفتر عليم كاز قبر زلو بقسقاسي ناوي زمرح تدميرو زياتهم كلهم ناويهم زخدو بحاجرو ناي سرعة منجستي هنصت بروسيسي ودي قليل بروسيس يكون بحاجر جزء ودا بروسيس يكون جزء وسدي قس بقس حدا ነገር ናቅመትካ ኸይ ነገር ናቅመትካ በመኻድ ዝመጽእ እዚ ተጀሚሩ ዘሎ ጉዳይ ስቲ ሪፎርም ዲው ትራንስፎርሜሽን ዝብል ናይ ዩኤን አካላት ብሕማቕ ይኹን ብጽቡቕ ንሕና ንገብሮ ናይ ፖለቲካ ሕርያ መበገስ ገይሮም ክድግፉና ይመጽኦም ኣብ ትግራይ ዝግበር ፖለቲካዊ ትራንስፎርሜሽን ናትና ስራሕ ናይ ባዕልትና ስራሕ ንሕና ኢና ክንሰርሖ ማንም ሰብ ክሰርሐልና ይኽእል تقاليسنا يكون تمخاخيرنا يكون جزء وسيلنا يكون بحث جزء نجوريلنا يكون نحنا بعلتنا تجارو أبزلنا هلنا خوينا نجورو سراحي زي جن ديزاين كبر كله زلوا تجمع من رأيهمو أبكر طلع حموش عمد نوز خون بجت نوز خون عقم سم مدينة قص بقص ناتلو تكخيد زي كبر برنامج نجمر تباهيلو تجميرو زلوا وتنا يسرعة من قصة هنسات درجة بدرجة نادل دلك خيد مسألة ننسفنا نخيد بزويل يتجميرو زلو زي يتتاشم زي تقلال لازم قلت زلو هنا بوليتيكا ريفورم كان إعلامه نزخونو سبات نمقدا ويزخون السب تاشم نمقارا يكون كان إعلامه نهزب تقرأي زمطن منجستي ንምፍጣር أبز خيد زي أبز خونه بوتا يحلو زخون السب بوقعته نبصرح كأتو وزيت نابزلو سرح كأتو وزيت نابزلو سرح تمديو تحقسوك سرح زي خل خونتات المفتاري ثم بقسي زيت إعلامي يزقل زلو أفتو قعزون تعين كفات كقات موي خيل كميلنا كنت كاين خيل كلاتنا نرانا نخيل نقار يزقو سلازي زي خوينو قل كم حد أكل نايزو بروغرام أبزز مس ناي منجست لوتي يعبا ينقص يبزح يوحد ناي سبات كابوتا نابوتا مزوار يكون كاب سرح مفنق على سلاز مص نزوم كم زوم سول سباتون كما غيرنا هنا اجرن نتكلهم كما غيرنا هنا نابطح نابرا نملسهم زبل اكل ناي صنعت خوينو صناعي تغيرو زلو سو زبز حسب عقم سلازلو لمد سلازلو بزح سرح كاتي كما قاطعم خوين بزخونه يكون مخنيات زترف زبن تليون ناي وعلها غدايو زبالو عينتها كايدا يكونن እቲ ፕሮግራም ዝካየድ ዘሎ ሪስክስ ድሓር ናብቶም ዝመፁ ሕቶታት ኣነ ዘለኒ እዚት ጀነራል ነገር የገሊፀ ከመይ ጌርና ክሪኦ ከም ዘለና ከሪአ የፈቲነ نافتم جنرال نجار كنا أتكلمنا بزعواريس كسل علكمو نجار الله تام قال يوم نعمل بيزك فانكشن تاعيهم كما قالوا يوم زعقانو جزء دكتور سام قال يسويو كاو زحت فلين نجار يبلين تكنيكال ونسلزهون أفتسرح كتأتو كلهم مستوى تكنيكالي كواي إذا حاجة فلت أزلهم سوات معك أنت هتناوزه خيدي نايجن زم مكوزار قداي تلعيل نير UN أبزو ريسورس مكوزار عبيه ترانو أفتبورد UN ناي تجري جزاو من قصة أكلاتن بحدو خيلو من مزكايلو برنامج ببرنامج ناترأي زوج إزهو زي أتوم تعشم يوم زهونو ناشنال جزء تبعه متى نجار ولا حدا جزء عسكوب زل علىكم ونجار نيرو وزي معراب تجري يتعال اليو أو تحت صلاة زلوا بتاعت يتعال اليو زبل يتهبيل زلوا زي بعلوز خالي بروسس زلوا يجوا منجست تجري تناي بريتوريا اسمه معنا زفر ودب هو حتون أبزو كده يزي زرار ورلو بوز مثل لوتي زوسنو قلت له لو تكملت تسفان قبل أبتو حد يزراباتون سلازنا وركله سلازنا لهنو كم أنت مزجو تسكب أتوم بتحت صلاة زلوا عدتات مولومون كحوسومي مالتي وزي كي ياخذ تاريخ أجا من تجاتي مدما هشيتو كم زمت صلوان نرى ناين خيرنا كم ريسك ما تنقل كم تزغلزكمو ناي بريتوريا سمم معنت كوها ملو بملو أنت تكبيرو مفح فحص لازم فتر أجا مكفتر يخيل زي ناتق على سنايون خيد كم أجا ايدنتيفاي غيرنا أبزو بروجكت زي كونس كابجو بروجكت يوسع أبزو خنا بخالي مسرح ناتق على سنايو نعرنايو نخيد نجار يزخو بزعوا هذا زلوا ناي تجري ناي بوليتيكا خناتات نلو تدلو زي مخان كم ريسك العلكم ولا ريسكيو أبزو خنا عدي كاب حدا ناي بوليتيكا سرعات نبخالي كتم ما حيش كوا كتدلك لها زك قوم سبيه لي زك قوم كندي يبزح كندي حياليو كم خناتاتو يفعلالي أوانا زيريس كي يكونن الكام هذا يكال كابيت العلنا بمسينا خمزلنا تفولتوا يهم كلهم أبناتكم عدمة تجاورس لزغنا كابت هذه زلنا لو نابكر مثل مقصال دما UNDP يسرحلنا خالي يسرحلنا بعلتنا ناتقالسنا ناقفحنايو نخدو قداي صقم كم زلو فليتنا كما إنا نقالوسون ناولنا إنا كنكيد زلنا زو بروجكت مرحو زلكم سوات بزعوازي تاعكم تقولوا طرح أيكون نكون زلو نحنا كم سيت زلمتن تلو تزبوي انتلنا نسونا مجارشان خبز حتى إنا كنقبر زلنا ون نحسبنا إنا كنكر زلنا إليه كبل زدلي ناتهم ريسكس كاو كلكم مسيحوا اليوم كاو ناي بريتوريا اسمه معنا زي ما تكباركم مسيحوا اليوم كفدرال منكستي كشاب هزي مسينا يزلنا قال يصلحوا نقدم يزي مسينا قال نتليون كنري كاو ناي بعلتنا بيزيكالي كاو وشتنا تستنحي ناي بوليتيكا أكايدا كل وقت كاب زي مدلاي كمتص زخل صقم كله يخلي تو بروجرام زي اتوم بقمتي اتوي نسو ابتو بروجرام زغبر ነገር زلو اكلات بفلاي دما غيزياو منግስት ትግራይ ግደሎ زي اتوم مفتاح بروجرام سي نشيت غيرو لقدميتونا تقالس بتግባር كحلوي هزون نتناي بوليتيكا لاندسكيب ناي ትግራይ ዝغير بروجرامات እናቀመጠ እና ተግበረ ይዝኸይድ ዘሎ خيديو كابزن اليوم مومنتم ناوسنا خيدي زي جن ملو عوض غارانتي يقبل تحبرت سب أبزين دحر بارتسبيت زي غيرو تحما تجزاو منقص حما أنت غيرون حما غير كان ناوله كالي حما قبل تليون حما غير كازي تخكل يكون ناوله معناته ناي تقراي فيوتشرز نابين خيدي تم عراري نهزب سيرفيس اكاونتابل زخونه ترانسبارنت زخونه نهزب ديمقراطياو مسل زحلو منجستاو سرعات دون مسرت ويس كم تصنعنا نقصر يزخو تمعراري منجستاو سرعات نمسرت انتلنا درجة بدرجة زي اتو منا فتحنا هنا كنكير زلنا كالوتهم بزحت تلعلوا له سامون مليسوميو نابتم زرزر بزح نمتاو غزيون كيطف هذا ياريز زلعلو important نتبه نيرو ناي citizen engagement كله لوزل صبويت نتبه وتو ناي citizen engagement بخلته منقدو يزقلص هذا كمتو بزح سب زريو بتم civil society بالكاب زغبر engagement كم حدا أكلت تحيزله كم حدا سرعت تحيزله نسوت راح قلنا يكون المجلس يوم أنتو منجستي أم منجست زجبر سرح نتو هزبي نتو سيتزن بزت عم من قدي نهاتو مسألة وقمت بزتو من قدي زجبر لو تقول سنتروت سيتزن ناجوري كايزله زين ما خلي أسبكت ناي سيتزن إنجاجمنت سلازي زي أتوم كلتيهم نوادله خيدي تتعشموز مليو I think أتوم نابتوم زرزر نجارات كأتوه توانا كله زدلوه حدث project زي جزاو منجست تجراي أو سيو فدرال منجست قبلوه يوين دماغ ندك فوق منايلو زمزة project نقدر ميتون خم وين نقصليه زيد حدا من تعشمو قال أي بقفي engagement خم تهزن جورز زلنا قوينو تخصليه كاب هزن اللي بفلايت engagement ناقف حق خيديو ناقف عز خلوا مخنيات لأنه يوعلنا يسرح خفلس لزلو نزلنا يوعلنا يسرح خفال السرعو سبات كاوش تعدون كاب دقون كما expect لنقبر زيد هو resources لازم يصير نقول لهم بوتاهم engage الناقبرة ناتكم حسابوا ناوسده وتحسب نابتكبر نخوعل أو زنا هذه more or less نا inception زبال نا عاد عمد period بس عبي توم detail programات موسى إذا تكبروا كونيو أو تكبر زوعلو تكبراتهم كله يخليهم كسلوا دما تزقصل حموش عمد تسنح قفح زبالة ناي منجست مسرتا صراح سنتر وزجبر من قصاص نقول لهم involve نا جبر زخيد قفح زبالة resource حتت قفح زبالة program قفح زبالة جهاز حتت نقول لهم نعرف إنجاز قبل program تحاسبوا يزخيد زلوا زيك بالدليل
form them to sync with whatever we are designing on the higher level. So the government structures, all the way from the presidency to the tabes and waradas, will be reformed in such a way that they are flexible, slim, and more importantly, responsive. They respond to the government, to the presidency.
The president and the public.
Yes. And he also mentioned the studies that we are doing in so many other sectors, which will ultimately add up into one package of reform. The second issue is about alignment and harmonization that were raised by a couple of our colleagues, especially Dr. Moose and my colleague from Macaulay University. In that regards, as long as we operate and live within one political and economic space with the federal government, whatever reforms we do here will aim at aligning and harmonizing our policies with the general policies of the federal government. So there will be a huge work to be done in terms of creating those harmonization, in terms of policy, legislation, and process and procedures in every function that we have here. That's also one major area where my colleague here, Gorehewat, and the rest of you are working. So it's part of a bigger plan to one, harmonize, align, and like we said, reform and transform the governance system in Tigray so that it sustains peace and development at the end of the day. And now, I think I have some more minutes to spare. So let me start where I stopped.
Who gave us candid reactions to the presentation as well as the whole initiative, as it was mentioned by His Excellency Lieutenant General Tzadkan. This is not a UN project or a UNDP project. It is the project of the regional government of Tigray. And we feel that there starts ownership and the leadership when it comes to this particular project. So we appreciate this initiative as it relates to ensuring peace and development and democratized system in Tigray. I think we need to note that this is initiative has two steps or two phases. The first one is the 1 year phase which is related to comprehensive assessment. That's why we need to establish the project unit. And the intention for this inception phase is to lay the foundation for really understanding the issue and where you need to find the real gaps in democratization process, in the justice system, and in the civil service reform process. So for this first phase, which is a 1-year period phase, is a critical phase for the implementation of this big program. The second phase, as it was explained by the principals, it is the 5-year big program, which is going to be based on the assessments that will be conducted in 1 year. So the assessment will be the entry point for us to really identify those critical interventions which will transform the present situation of Tigray to another important phase, which would be acceptable by the regional government and the people of Tigray, and where the people would have the opportunity to be engaged, where civil society should have the platform to influence, where the media would be the voice of the people of Tigray. That is the intention. So we need to understand that the whole situation, the whole challenges of Tigray would be resolved in 1 year period. It's not realistic. So we have to have the 1 year phase and then the 5-year phase. Secondly, I would like to also mention that civil societies are critical in this process, the media and also the political parties, but we would like to have some kind of consultations and also engagement strategy, how to engage them in these important processes. So they would have roles. That's why you are invited today. We are happy that you are expressing your views, giving us feedback, your inputs, the valuable interactions. But we have to be sure that the engagement that they would have should be impactful. That's why a clear engagement strategy would be put in place to make sure that your participation is more guided, but at the same time more impactful. It's not to interfere in your policies, interfere in your mandates or constitution, but it is to make sure that your engagement is more useful and impactful. The third point is about the gender. The lady that came from the civil society, she stressed that we need to walk our talk. That's right. We talk about gender, we talk about participation, we talk about inclusivity, but the major principle that we need to understand is that we have to really work together to make sure that our promises are fulfilled and accepted. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, Lieutenant General Tzadkan Gabutensai, Vice President of the Interim Regional Administration of Tigray, Your Excellency Samdo, the UNDP Resident Representative, the regional officials, and ladies and gentlemen, and mine is just to focus on the next step of the appraisal process. And thanks so much everyone for the active participation and the great contribution, which is really very much appreciated. And we greatly value the critical insights and the inputs, comments, and reflection, and would like to assure that all are well taken. And at the way forward, I will briefly highlight a few points, what the next steps in the timeline will be to be undertaken through the appraisal process of this project. And the technical working group will be the responsible, largely will take the responsibility on the next steps and to refine and to reach the product. And we will, just as part of the technical working group, will address the concerns and the comments that have been expressed this morning. So all the points will be addressed. And at the way forward, I mean, one of the issues that we would like to urge the participants is just to provide us, if you have any additional comments and inputs and reflection, apart from the one that we have been discussing this morning, and you can forward to the technical committee, to Mr. Asif Abraha and to Fusaha and to me, and we are expecting just to receive this inputs and comments in written by today. We are just to speed up the whole process and to finalize as much as quickly as possible. So we are expecting just to receive any feedback, any comments, any inputs from you, from the participants in written by today. And the technical committee group will review and incorporate all the feedback and inputs, and we are expecting this to be finalized by tomorrow, by 19th March. And as Fusaha pointed out earlier, the technical working group is composed from the UNDP and from the interim regional administration of Tigray, and there is also now Senai and Mr. Asafa, and so UNDP will do all the best just to speed up and finalize those processes as quickly as possible. The product, in principle, is endorsed with the understanding that all the comments and inputs have been incorporated and well addressed. So we are expecting that this has been endorsed. So an updated version of the product, the program document, will be produced and circulated to the participants along with the minutes of the LPAC meeting that we have already undertaken, and this will be finalized by 20th of March, the latest. The other next activity or actions which will be undertaken by the technical working group, the project document will be, we are expecting to be signed by 90s. And this project document will be signed by the Regional Bureau of Finance, by UNDP, and by the Interim Regional Administration of Tigray. So this is with the understanding that all the comments and the feedback and the inputs will be incorporated, and the product will be fine-tuned and enriched so that it's ready for signing. So we are expecting this to be undertaken by tomorrow. The project will become operational as soon as the project has been signed. So there will not be anything that impede us just to stay behind. Just so that we can start the project as quickly as possible. And the regional government and UNDP will start implementation with care and quality, and this is as of 25th of March. So those are some of the timeline that we, as UNDP and the technical group, propose to be undertaken as part of the next actions and timelines. And there is resource mobilization, which will be undertaken, and this is an ongoing process. And basically, this is very instrumental just to realize the objective of the project, and resource is really very critical. And in view of this, we are hoping that this will be a concerted effort of all of us, the development partners, the UN agencies, and the interim regional government, and all the key stakeholders of this project are expected just to contribute and to do the best in terms of resource mobilization. Because, without having secured and mobilized resource, it's gonna be very difficult just to go through the implementation of this project, and it will be also very hard to realize. So this has to be given due emphasis by all the key stakeholders and the implementers of the project. The project the project management board will be established, and implicitly it has already, indicated, and as in Fissa's presentation, and one of the questions were who are the members of this project board, and I think Mr. Samuel and Lieutenant Sarkan has already explained the members of the board. This has been established, and from the key implementing partners, from UNDP, from the development partners, especially those who will be contributing to this initiative will be members of this project board. And UNDP and the regional government will convey the first meeting of this project steering committee or the project board as quickly as possible. Once the project has been signed, so the next step will be this project steering committee or the board members will convey such high-level meeting just to kick off the implementation of the project and just to approve some of, there will be a work plan. A planning exercise will be undertaken by the technical working group, and the work plan as per the product will be approved by the project board. So this meeting will be very crucial in light of speeding up the implementation of this project. The technical working group, composed of the UNRCO, the UNDP, and the regional government, will continue the work and support as much as possible. And we also urge the key stakeholders of this project to join as part of the technical work, to work together with the existing technical work group. So it's open for other stakeholders to join, and UNDP will continue its close support for the timely and smooth start of the project, as well as for the successful and effective implementation of the project. This is some of the critical steps that we are looking for to be undertaken largely by the technical working group, but also by other key stakeholders of the project. So as we propose, we don't have much time, just to stay and to delay this process. So if the project has been endorsed by the stakeholders today, with the understanding that all things will be addressed. So the technical group will stay here today and tomorrow to finalize the product, to fine-tune, to make some adjustment for signing. This is just to give you a brief few points of the next step. So I thank you so much, and once again, would like to thank you everyone for the critical insights and contribution. So we will work together and we'll make a difference. I thank you so much.
Our General and the Vice President, distinguished colleagues, we want to thank you for your really not just participation but substantive engagement. Really, I'm personally quite impressed with the level of interest in the content of this project and in the vision that the project encapsulates. We are at the stage now, as my colleague Afawak had said, we are assuming that this meeting has endorsed the project, with the caveat that all your comments will be incorporated between today and tomorrow. And that this project now, all of us feel the need, the importance of institutional reform. That is the assumption that I am trying to go with. As has been emphasized, this exercise started since last year. I think Robin came last June, a few months before June, at the request of the interim administration, and extensive consultations were held, each one of you, and we are at the stage now where you all are saying, yes, we accept this project. If there is any disagreement, maybe it will be important to hear that now. Otherwise, we assume, because the essence of a project appraisal meeting is for everybody to now say, we say, yes, go ahead. And if I don't see any disagreement, then I'm assuming that's where we are at now. You are telling us to go ahead. Because the donors, excellent. Thank you. This was what many of the partners have been waiting for, and that we have passed this threshold now of having a consensus from all of us that we will go ahead with the project. As has been said, the next step now with your agreement is it will be signed tomorrow, and then we will now start implementation, which is have the work plan approved by the project board, implementation starts. So we really look forward to working closely with you already. As I said, UNDP is working at the level of the community through the peace support program that we have here in our office. We are working with the government and the National Rehabilitation Commission to get the DDR process continued and strengthened. That process will be starting very soon. And then the institution reform is the next. These three are very important for any post-conflict environment. And this is why we are all working on three of them together. And I was here last Friday in Mekelle. I'm here on Monday. I suspect I will be coming almost every other week. But I really look forward to the partnership and the support. I want to thank Madam Hannah Tete, who was the observer for the peace process and took this process of institutional reform seriously, knocked on the door of the RC office and UNDP and said, you have to support. She gave us an instruction. She didn't request us, and so we look forward to working with our office and the RC office to partner with you and support the ARAT to achieve the goals and the objectives of this project. Thank you so much.